And so I'm going to start my story off by talking about scouting in the beginning. So I began in Pack 197, Den 3. As you see, there's a picture of me from a couple years back. I went from 3rd to 5th grade at Westminster as a scout, but then I also left because I didn't realize how much that scouting had to offer. And so I came back to scouting in freshman year. I've been back in scouting for 3 years. I'm a troop guide. I've had the rank of troop guide. I've been assistant patrol leader, and now I'm a junior assistant scoutmaster in the troop. And I plan on staying involved in the troop as much as possible, or as long as possible. One of the things that scouting really gives you is friends for life. Now, this is a very interesting picture. I'll tell the story behind it. So when I came back to scouting in freshman year, I'm not doing this alone, is what I told myself. So I took one of my friends, Omari, and sucked him up and told him to come do scouting with me. So now if you look at this raft, and you look at the front left, the person leaning over with the paddle screaming, that's Omari. I am to the right of Omari. And so this was one of our favorite campouts. It's a whitewater rafting campout, and we go on it every year. Even now, we try to, if our schedule's free, we try to go on it. And so a reason why I chose this picture is that it sparks curiosity. And so I'm gonna answer all your questions with this picture here. And so we still have this discussion, and we still argue about whose fault this was. It's not mine, because I leaned in as much as I could. Omari leaned in as much as he could. It may have been one of the other 2 scouts in the back, but the interesting part about this is that our raft guide, she was the only person that stayed in, and she sat higher than everyone else did on the raft. And so she just parked the raft and waited for us all to float down and get back in. Another thing that scouting does is it creates memories. So I can remember so many things about scouting, and I can remember all my favorite campouts. So on the left, we have the Silver Comet Trail campout. And so this is a 50-mile in total biking campout, both to and from our destination, which is actually an Italian restaurant. So our scoutmasters were like, we know they're all hungry, so we're just gonna put food at the end of the trail and just let them loose. So that's what we did for that. And so on the right is my backpacking training for when I went to Philmont, which I'll talk about later on. I have a couple of good stories from that. And so that was a very new thing, because I probably would have never gone backpacking if it wasn't for scouting. I remember hearing about backpacking when I was like a younger scout, and I remember thinking, I don't know if I can do that, but then I ended up enjoying it and liking it more than I thought I would, so it's just something that I really like. And so life experiences. So I went to the first Jamboree at the new Summit Reserve in West Virginia in 2013. And so I have a couple of good stories from this one as well. I like to tell a lot of stories, if you couldn't tell. But my first story is on our trip going up there. When I got on the bus to go to the summit, I had no idea what to expect. This was my first big scouting trip, because I had never been on any high adventure trips. And so this was kind of like my first introduction. So on the left, I don't really smile in that picture. I'm on the left picture on the far right, because I'm kind of just worried about what's going on. And in the middle picture on the left, it's kind of like a, what am I getting myself into sort of smile. And so West Virginia we're not really close. So it's a long bus ride. And so the first hour or so, we were doing all right. We were feeling good. Everyone was laid back, sleeping, comfortable. But then the bus pulled over, because we had bus problems with our bus. And so our bus was one of the newer buses, which was, it was a little worrying. But we had an older bus that was in our group that was going with us to the Jamboree. And so the way that it works is that scouts are always prepared. So we were prepared for this, not in having another bus, but we were prepared to make other scouts move so we could fit on that other bus as well. And so in that time, that first hour, we had scouts laid all the way out across the floor. We had 3 scouts to the 2 scouts, the 2 seats on each side, so everyone was really good friends with each other. And about an hour or so into this ride, because it's an older bus, the air conditioning broke down. And so it became very hot, and we became even better friends with our scouts nearby. So now my second story from the Jamboree is, after we got off the bus at the summit in West Virginia, I was very excited to be there. One, because it was cooler outside than it was inside the bus. And then the second reason is that I had never been to a Jamboree. This was the first one here, and there were so many scouts from so many venturing crews, so many scout troops, just people from all over the place. And so we got there, and so we wanted to just run, get our campsite set up, and get all the things that we needed ready to go, and then we were going to go off and do some of the great things that they have there. And so in my rush, along with my tent mate. We set up our tent. That was fine. It was all good. But the second night of our stay, it was a very, very strong storm. All right? It was thundering, lightning, rain pouring, mud, and all that type of stuff. And so I distinctly remember inside my tent, thinking that this is a really rough storm. I'm surprised the tent's really holding up as well as it is. And then, about 5 to 10 minutes later, you hear like a pulling sound, but you just don't think it's yours because they're all so close together. And then, whoosh, off the rain fly went, and just water poured in. And so you could hear, I guess the other tents nearby were disturbed by our yelling as all the rain came in. So they ran from all different sides, all next door, and helped us put the rain fly down while we tried to just body block all our stuff from getting wet. And so that was a very interesting experience. I distinctly remember it, but it also, we checked our tent every time we came back from, all of our activities. And then it also allowed us to be great friends with the troops that were on either side of us. So that was really cool as well. So now another thing that scouting has given me is opportunity and adventure. So earlier I mentioned how I didn't have too much of an interest in backpacking, but then it blossomed over time. I got used to it, I enjoyed it, and I began to have more fun on the trips because I wasn't worried about, if am I forgetting something? Did I pack my tent up right? Is this too much weight? Yada, yada, yada. So I got to go to Philmont a couple years ago, and it was Trek 33. And so Philmont was probably one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. But the tough part about it is that when we got there and you step off that bus and you watch the bus turn around and drive off is when you realize, oh, we're here. We really are. We're really here. And so Philmont was a great experience for me. I encourage as many people as possible to go on it. And so on day 8 or 9, we were kind of pressed for time because we had been close to missing our food drops before, but we were just making sure that we would stay on the front end of this and meet all our points, be able to do all of our activities, and finish our trek strong. Because around that middle day is when it gets really rough. You get really tired, you get really groggy, you really wonder why you did this to yourself, why you made this decision, but then after looking back on it, you really enjoy it. But when we were pressed for time, we were trying to make up the ground that we had lost. We made a wrong turn. Now, I don't like to say we made a wrong turn. I like to say that my scoutmaster, Dr. Krupsack, made a wrong turn. So Dr. Krupsack is back in that room, and so he said that nothing embarrasses him, so I don't think he's embarrassed by that. I think he's laughing, but we made a wrong turn. We went 14 miles off course, but we still... We went 14 miles off course, but in 2 days, we were able to catch our sister crew and beat them to base camp. So Mr. Jordan was a member of that crew. And so Mr. Jordan, we definitely did better. We did better. And so another thing that scouting has given me is career exposure. Now, not everything scouting related has to be out in the wilderness, enjoying the wild, but that is a very big part of it. Now, there's a GE Explorers program, which allows scouts and I think other people who are affiliated with scouting to come and learn more about different career paths and learn more about, the smart grid is what we specifically talk about because it's more of an electrical engineering focused program. And so this is I've been involved with this since freshman year, and so I really enjoy it. Mr. John McDonald, who's a member he's the smart grid business development leader for North America. He runs the program, and he's a very cool guy. I was wondering if he could come today, but he's actually in London giving some sort of presentation. He's a very busy guy. But then here's some more pictures from that exploring trek. And so the last thing that kind of ties everything scouting related to me is leadership. Now, I recently got my Eagle Scout rank, and so when you get to the point that you have to plan your Eagle Scout project, and you get to the point where you're getting scouts together, getting your project ready, communicating with your beneficiary, is when you really realize how much scouting has really given you, because you've been allowed to network with these people. You've done the communications merit badge, so you know how to present to these people. You know how to network, and it really kind of ties everything around together. And so that's the best part about scouting, because it really is the icing on the cake. It really solidifies everything. And so to end my whole presentation, I just want to say that what makes me a Scout is that I have made friends for life, I've created memories, I've had life experiences, I've experienced opportunity and adventure, I've gotten career exposure, and then I've learned how to really be a leader, and I've also lived and will strive to lead the Scout oath and law in my everyday life. Thank you, guys.